Welcome to the portal to New Sovereign Earth, an interdimensional landing strip for beings who know their power. Come, collaborate, learn, and co-create our collective heaven on Earth. Brought to you by Temples Aquaria, where you can find exclusive members-only content like events, shows, classes, and even invites to on-site retreats. You'll learn everything you need to know in order to build the new sovereign Earth. I'm your host, Kalina Lux. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our second episode of The Portal to New Sovereign Earth. I am very excited about this interview today because it is the first of many in a series of going over one of my most favorite topics to learn about and talk about and discuss with community, which is DERO. If you don't know about DERO and you're sovereignty minded, you're going to want to tune in to this. And especially as we progress, as the series goes on, I'm going to be bringing in more and more guests to talk specifically on this topic, because it is my personal belief and opinion that this technology is probably the single most powerful tool we have at our disposal to actually self-govern. And that's going to become a lot more apparent as we walk through this series together. And I'm really excited also to do this series because about, 3 to 5 months ago, I was really trying to learn about this topic. And I was scouring the internet, every platform, Odyssey, YouTube, everything for any type of content, specifically videos. Because if you're like me, I learn really through audio visual and mostly audio, because it's great. You can be doing your physical chores around the house and binge watching or binge learning in my case. And I was really searching for where to find things regarding this topic, DERO. And I think I consumed all of the information available within about a week. And I mean, that's like me going full force on it. And now I think that it's time to bring in teachers, mentors, and community members to start helping bring this information to light. Our guest today is SecretNameBasis, and you'll learn why that, in the DERO community, it's very popular to go by names like this, handles. And Secret is a person who has really stepped up within the community. He is one of those guys that is always down to teach, and he shows up in the DERO Entrepreneurs Telegram group, of which there will be a link in the bio and the description below to that group. And almost daily, Secret shows up and he brings all of his passion for learning DERO and studying and sharing, and everything that he learns, he shares with us. And so this has been a communal thing. And I have to say that since we've been doing these daily almost chats in the DERO Entrepreneurs Telegram group, my understanding, while it's in one hand increased, it's conversely decreased in perspective to how much the sheer volume of information there is on this topic at hand. I am barely scratching the surface as a beginner, and it is of my belief right now at this current phase in what I've been studying within DERO, that this is the technology that we're going to need, that's going to be very powerful in our own pursuit of sovereignty and autocracy and self-governance. So SecretNameBasis is the moderator of the DERO dApps, is a moderator of the DERO dApps, DERO Entrepreneur, and he is an official Wiki project contributor. He's an excellent teacher, speaker, and educator, and overall just an epic friend and community member. Secret, hi, welcome. How are you today?
Kalina, as always, I'm happy, and I'm happy to be here with my friend Kalina. Thank you very much for having me over.
Yeah, it's really an honor to even get you guys in the DERO community to speak and share. So I'm super grateful when we're able to have a member knowledgeable like yourself and willing to share, show up. So I heard you share a story once about your journey in crypto. And I feel like that is something that's going to be really phenomenal for the people who might be watching this and have no clue about crypto or are still in that path like you are, because the majority of the world, I would say, is at the beginning stages of the journey that you're on, myself included. Would you be willing to give us like a small little recap of your story in crypto in like, maybe 5 to 10 sentences or less?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I hope these like introductory, like, hey, hi, whatever, doesn't include in that 5 sentences. Hi, everybody. I'm SecretNameBasis. Unfortunately, you get to see a picture of Alexander the Great, the bust of Alexander the Great, as a picture of me. With that said, who am I? Why am I here? What's crypto all about? And why Dero? In 5 sentences or less, I started in crypto because I was unfortunately in a position in my life where selling drugs was necessary for generating an income. And I was introduced to the concept of BTC, or Bitcoin, which many people know about. And I learned about the exchanges and using exchange accounts. I think that's sentence 1. Sentence 2.
Okay. Just enjoy. I was just giving a rough estimate. Go ahead and just feel free.
Of course. I'm having fun. At the same time, I also understand the need of brevity for my story. The second phase of my journey in learning about crypto was taking accountability for crypto and owning my crypto, having wallets and so forth. The third step of my journey was learning a lot about DEXs and swapping and becoming invested in blockchain projects. The fourth sentence, I guess you could say, was discovering privacy and discovering privacy-related topics, privacy-related chains. And as a result of that, I learned about Dero. And once I learned about Dero, I have never gone back, because I understand what the technology is, what it does, what it can do for me. And as a result of that, I have learned everything I possibly can about the subject so that I can share it with people just like Kalina, who's been an awesome friend of mine. I've really enjoyed having her among the Discord and in the Telegram chats. I'm very honored to be able to be a part of this series. It's I got to say that. Thank you very much, Kalina. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that people have about my journey of getting into crypto for all the wrong reasons and then finding myself in crypto for all the right reasons. So
Amazing. So one of the things that you mentioned that I felt would be a really nice tie-in. My people typically come from like a law perspective in pursuit of sovereignty through the lawful routes. And I find it interesting that a lot of people in Dero are actually already up to speed in the sovereignty aspects and the autocracy. And would you mind just sharing about the book that you spoke of, The Sovereign's Way, and how you discovered the need for encryption?
Oh, yeah. The Sovereign Individual. The Sovereign Individual, awesome book. Highly recommend it. Most folks in the sovereign community, as far as I can guess, I've spent so much time in Dero, I haven't had enough time to really explore the sovereign individual or sovereign communities. And I would love if Kalina might be able to recommend some other projects to me, either privately or here, that I can check out to learn more about it. Always excited to learn about that stuff. So the Sovereign Individual was written in like 1998, 1999. And it was written like right at the start of the .com craze. And it was written by a pair of attorneys / business-minded men. And they did a historical analysis of technology and how it impacts or influences superstructures, super political structures. And after reading that book, there's a checklist. It's like the last thing And once I went through that checklist, two things on that checklist are absolutely mandatory. And I found myself quickly involved with that. The first was invest in cyber money. That was the first. Not the first on the list, but the first that caught my eye. And when I read this was last year. So someone from 1998 was saying invest in cyber money. Bitcoin didn't even exist yet. And he was already shilling, internet money. The second was the use of encryption. And once I read this book, which was last year, I started scouring internet money that also was encrypted. And as you might imagine, that took me to Dero. So, yeah, I'd be happy to add more about what I read in that book and maybe relevancy. But yeah, Kalina, you tell me where to go from here.
Yeah. So I am fascinated as to what they could have said. What was their reasoning for investing in cyber money? Because a lot of people, at least the people that I have been I'm dealing with, there's a split, right? So some people see and they can feel in their heart and soul that there is a solution within crypto. And they're getting, obviously sold Kool-Aid, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But they're not wrong, right? Because there is a solution within a type of fungible peer-to-peer type of electronic cash versus what they're trying to pull about, right? And then the other part of my community has this deep feeling that they're like, no, it's the trap, it's the government psyop, they're going to try and round you into the whole social credit scores system. And so they're split, and they're not wrong either, because they're picking up like the majority of the psyop of what crypto is pretending to be. And then the other people are seeing, wait, no, there's a solution there, but they don't know yet that Dero exists as that. So tell me a little bit about what that book said regarding why cyber money and encryption.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a really fun book. I wish off the top of my head I could remember the authors. There's two of them, and that's part of why I struggle. And I think that's partly why everybody struggles with identifying who the author of this book is. But The Sovereign Individual is a historical analysis of different technologies that impacted superstructures and what the advent of the microprocessor might do to the current superstructure. So to give you a little history lesson, that's what the authors do. There was this really big jurisdiction, this really big jurisdictional power, and it was called the Empire of Rome. Okay, and it was a really big deal. It controlled the Western world on so many levels. Unfortunately for Rome, it became so large and it disseminated, that's a really key word here, folks, disseminated information about how to manage your crops. And in virtue of disseminating this information about managing crops outside of the agrarian optimized zones of the West, you had a lot of city-states that suddenly became self-governable. They were able to make their own food, and as a result, they felt it unnecessary to generate taxes for the Empire of Rome. In addition to this, the barbarian hordes, that was like Germany and so many other countries, they just took over these portions of Rome and eliminated Rome's capacity to tax their agriculture. And so basically, as a result of the dissemination of information in Rome, just through word of mouth, Rome collapsed from the inside out. The decadence, as many people point out, was the greatest failing. But these authors postulate that the dissemination of information as it pertains to agriculture is what led to the failing of Rome, because too many people now knew how to farm and Rome had no control. So that was the first destruction of a superstructure as a result of technology, or the dissemination of understanding of the technology. The second instance that they give, the second example, is the Holy Roman Empire, or the Pope. So the Pope shows up, or the Holy Roman Empire shows up, and sees all these disparate city-states that are basically in constant conflict with each other and with other nations as a result of creating sovereign individuals. This is the first real example of the sovereign individual, is a time during the Dark Ages when there is not a single controlling force, an emperor of such. And so everybody got rounded up under God. Hate it, love it, leave it, whatever. That's the history. Everybody was under God, and specifically God, then Pope, then everybody else. Now, what happened to the Holy Roman Empire was the advent of the printing press. The printing press removed the power from the jurisdiction, that is the Holy Roman Empire, to produce meaningful information that could be shared, the written language. Because the only people who were writing anything at the time were monks, and they were writing it out by hand. But when the printing press was invented, of which Martin Luther, which we all are familiar with Martin Luther and his complaints against the Catholic Church, Martin Luther's claim against the Catholic Church is that you can take my notice down from the door, but I have 10,000 more I can put on this door. So they didn't, and they excommunicated him for it. And as a result, Protestantism rose and eroded the Holy Roman Empire and the power of the Pope. Okay, so now we have two superstructures that have been completely eliminated by the dissemination of information. First, the dissemination of agriculture. Second, the dissemination of truth in a printed means, and not in Latin, in German and in English. And as a result of this, I haven't lost you yet, Kalina, have I?
Getting close, but go on.
Good, good. So I'm glad I haven't lost you yet. I'm going to tie this right back where we're at here in a second. So with the loss of the Holy Roman Empire, we then saw the rise of the jurisdictional powers. France, the United Kingdom, Germany. This is where the establishment of the state begins. And they begin their order over different bodies of human beings, because now they can print the book, they can print it in mass, and the propaganda is pushed on the people, and we start to see the rise of, as we all know, nationalism. Okay, with the advent of nationalism, we had a problem that the writers of this book, The Sovereign Individual, identified and also criticized, and also showed how technology, through the use of the central processing unit, the CPU, eliminates jurisdictional powers. And how they do it is with the power of encryption. You see, a jurisdiction like, let's say, for instance, France. France is a fun one. France looks down on its people and can look into all of the conversations that they're having on the internet, or conversations that they're having with each other through their computers or through telephones. But once encryption was invented, it eliminated the power that jurisdictional forces had over its population. You follow me, Kalina?
Yeah, definitely. This is very similar to like what we learn in law, living in the private. If your affairs are in the private, you're in your own jurisdiction, only you under the divine. And it's interesting too, because in the sovereignty communities that I have been a part of, there are so many varying ideas of history and, you know, so many different types of stories out there, and ones that run completely counter to this and some that run completely obscure to this and everything. But I think the people, at least in the temple, and the people that frequently watch my shows kind of have the idea that it doesn't matter. And if you're new to this, right? So even if your viewpoints aren't the same as this, it doesn't matter. We're just looking at it in this time frame from Secret's perspective. So we're just getting a little synopsis of what touched him in his story. So we don't have to get all triggered about one thing or the other, just in case, because I know there's like a ton of different realities out there, all in superposition in each other. Go on, Secret, please.
Of course. And so, granted, I don't know, I'm not God. I don't have a perfect understanding of history. I'm just describing my understanding of this book, and I could be totally wrong. It's been a year since I last read it.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We tend to practice this, at least in the temple community, and I'm hoping that more people will get on board, because it's an amazing practice to just sit there and be like, wow, what if, like with childlike curiosity. Anyways, go on, because I want to hear about encryption.
Right. And that's the key point here, is that the authors of this book, The Sovereign Individual, pointed out that with the use of encryption, which was just an inventive way of using language, just really, it's just your freedom to read and write, they were able to scramble the message in such a way that, and I say they, the powers that created encryption, they were able to create a method that eliminated jurisdictional power. That right there cannot be understated. The power of encryption undermines the state and its ability to snoop on you and govern you, because your affairs are private. So that's key. So to speak further on encryption and my story of learning about crypto, I was very concerned about this problem of jurisdictions looking at my crypto transactions specifically. And with the usage of transparency chains, which I was using, they can literally scan all of that and investigate all that. But that's only jurisdictions. Only recently has it been educated to me that it's not just the government who's looking into chain analysis. We also have large-scale corporate entities which are scanning and educating themselves of the behavior of users on transparency chains. I love the phrase transparency chains. It's specifically also surveillance chains. That's great too. On these, like Ethereum-like products, because most of the products out there that are transparency in nature are just copy pasta of Ethereum. On these platforms, we have jurisdictions that are scanning the transactions to determine behaviors that they find risky. There are also corporate entities which are scanning the chains to determine not risky behavior, but profitable behavior. They can literally determine who are the users that they should advertise to and capitalize on. And the third entity, which is now looking into analyzing chain behavior, are the mobsters and gangs themselves. When you got enough money to pay the tech or the nerds, they're going to start scanning this stuff to find find users that are easy to scam. And so when I discovered this, I learned that encryption eliminates jurisdictional powers to surveil on me. It eliminates corporate entities being able to determine me as an interesting subject. And furthermore, it separates me from the mobsters, eliminates their capacity to identify me as a scam-worthy target. And scam could just simply be they just robbed me. So that's some of the things that I've discovered recently about what encryption can do for me. But Kalina, where are we at?
Yeah, we're doing really good. So you said a term there and it's already slipped my mind, but in case, copy pasta. So basically copy pasta, I don't know if you know the story with it. I don't know how it got changed from copy paste to copy pasta, but I guess that's just one of those really cute things in crypto that I've just learned recently in the Dero community. And I really think that that's a point that we need to reiterate is most of the cryptos out there are copy pasta. They're like all these blockchains and protocols have never really been written from scratch. There's only a handful that have been written from scratch. Dero is one of them. I think we're going to go into that in a little bit. But really the reason this is important is if there's a vulnerability in the original code that you are copying and pasting, that is going to be echoed throughout. And we're going to see that here in just a little bit. So we touched on surveillance chain. So earlier in the conversation, we alluded to two different types of camps within the conscious aware communities that I have been blessed to be a part of. One is like, crypto is going to help us. It's a solution to the surveillance problems, but they're not fully aware because they don't know that we're copying and pasting surveillance technology made for the governments and the powers that were to surveil us, we the people. And then there's the other camp, right, who is like, nope, that's all surveillance crap. And they know, right? So this is how we're going to tie it in together. My question for you, would you be willing to briefly go over what fungible means and what transparency, what are the implications of fungibility to our sovereignty?
Oh man, that's fantastic. Love that question. So now that I can see two very different camps or two different sides of the same problem, which is, should I use crypto or not, right? Because that's what it really comes down to. You got people who use crypto and see it as a solution, and people who see crypto as really a problem. I can address both of these camps at the same time, and they're going to be really excited that DERO actually answers the problems of both. So to answer the people who say that crypto is it's really a problem and we shouldn't use it, just so you know, they're probably, this is really frustrating, and trust me, I understand this. It is very likely that the usage of crypto is almost unavoidable. It's almost unavoidable in order to preserve your sovereignty. The reason why I say that is because the ability to have transactions under a private state is of so much import and so important that the only thing that rivals it is cash, but even cash has its limitations. And I'll be able to demonstrate that later from my own personal stories. But I want to address the other camp here and the concept of copy pasta and the problem of literally copying and pasting vulnerabilities of one chain and literally just duplicating it over and over and over. So as it pertains to the concept of fungibility, so when I have a dollar, or in my case where I'm in Mexico, right? If I have a peso and I have that peso as a coin in my hand and I pass that around, it's the same as any other peso on the market. It has no serial number. It has no really differentiating fact. Maybe it's the year in which it was made. And so the privacy that I gain in using coinage of a country, whether the United States, Europe, or whatever, when I use a coin that's like any other coin, it doesn't matter which coin I use. They're all the same and they're all different in the same time. The concept of fungibility. I can use any one, they all mean the same thing. And you can't trace as a virtue of the in virtue of the fact that this coin has no it has no feature to it that can really trace it to who used it before me. And I think that's really key to one set of individuals. To the other set, the people who still are using transparency chains, this is a really frustrating feature to understand, but has only really been made absolutely apparent in recent news with Tornado Cash. And we can explore that if we really need to. Most people are probably going to be fairly aware of what's going on there at this present moment. But in terms of transparency chains or surveillance chains, if I, to use an example, transfer 1 ETH to another person, there's a trail, there's a paper trail. I have traded it to somebody else. And so that history of the ETH is perpetuated throughout the network. And so you can follow where the money goes. And so it doesn't really have fungibility, not like using some kind of cash, some kind of coinage that can be passed along without ever having any connection to the previous user. So when we're using transparency chains, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, Harmony, Polygon, Solana. I can just keep going on and on and on. Any of these chains that you do not have privacy on layer one, we'll talk about more about what that means in a minute. If you do not have your blockchain encrypted at the base layer, what that means is that when you transfer any kind of, if you conduct any kind of transaction whatsoever, the history of where you got that is connected to whom you give it to. So you're actually giving to someone all of the problems that you received. That's not a good thing when you're dealing with something that you want to use as cash. Okay, so we're still doing okay. We're still doing okay there.
Oh, we're doing amazing.
Great. So now I want to address this camp here that say that crypto is the problem and it's just a part of the surveillance. In so many ways, you're right. Okay, I can't speak to whether or not Bitcoin was invented as an FBI psyop. I don't have any knowledge of that. I know the rumor. I can't speak to Ethereum being really just a honeypot for users so that jurisdictions, and I say we, the jurisdictions, I'm not affiliated with any of them, but I can understand their perspective in that if someone is using Ethereum or Bitcoin or Dogecoin, for crying out loud, or Litecoin, any token or coin wherewith the transactions themselves are transparent, where any user can publicly go view these transactions and can identify their wallet that was sent and the wallet that received, those right there, that creates a very serious problem, both on the concept of fungibility, that what I receive from someone matters. You all know when you receive cash, it doesn't matter. If I receive a bunch of bills from someone and a bunch of coins from someone, I don't care where they got it from. That is, in the Spanish word, efectivo. It's effective. You satisfied your bill. That's all that matters. Dero, because it is encrypted on the layer one, it affords me the opportunity to have fungibility. I don't care where this person got their Dero from because it's encrypted. Where they got it from doesn't matter because no one knows where it came from. Shoot, they hardly know where it comes from. They just know that it comes from a series of wallets that nobody else can peer into except the person that's now paying me. On the second level of this, in terms of fungibility, what's so fascinating about Dero is because only the sender is aware of the receiver, and the receiver receives the currency and the receiver knows where they received the funds from. And that's it. Nobody else does. In order for someone like Kalina to know that I, Secret, paid Captain, the developer, right, the guy who invented this guy, it could be anybody, it could be, a lot of people say it's a decentralized entity of 3 people that develop it, but to me that doesn't matter. They have a job and they fill their job, and their job is they invented an encrypted protocol for me to use, and they're really good at it. So let's say that Kalina wants to look in on a transaction that I sent to Captain. Kalina literally can't. If she does not have the transaction ID and the transaction proof, the proof that I even sent that, she has literally no clue, none. And so if somebody decided that they wanted to analyze the Dero blockchain, it would mean literally nothing to them unless they had the proofs that only the individual users themselves have. Only then could they actually look into what you are doing. And they don't, they can't, it's impossible. It's programmatically designed so that nobody else has that proof except the receiver and the sender. And as long as the sender and receiver do not expose the proof, it never happened. It's fascinating stuff, and I could go on and on.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So just to recap and to make sure, in case anybody is having a hard time following, on 99.99999% of cryptos, if you can call them, you can see transaction to transaction It's
Mhm.
public.
Mhm.
If they trace that back to your name, or if they know you did something, for
Mhm.
example, we can briefly talk on the Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash
Oh.
was an attempt of a layer 2. And if you're not familiar with layer 1 versus layer 2, I highly recommend you to watch my video by, it's an interview by James True on the Apoca Crypta show. It'll go into all this in depth, and it will be very good for you to understand this. So it was an attempt as a layer 2 solution, because remember, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything else mostly, they're not private by default at layer 1. That means they are mandatorily a surveillance technology at layer 1. Sure, you can attempt to add on little protocols that will potentially afford you a little fraction of privacy. However, JoyRaptor in the Dero community gave me a really excellent example of what a layer 2 does, which is the scenario that happened with Tornado Cash. It's like you live in a house and you're completely surveilled by Alexa cameras or whatever. Well, you built out a little space in the attic where you can go and do your thing and be alone, where there's no cameras and no wiretaps. So the cameras can watch you enter into the attic. They don't know what you're doing up there in the attic, but when you come back down, they see you enter. So this is essentially a metaphor for a layer 2, which was what Tornado Cash was. They were basically tumbling the identities and making it private on that layer 2. But it doesn't matter, because all of these like third parties that you have to go through, like Infura and Alchemy, which is basically everybody has to use these except for Dero, because we're our wallet does it for us, but that we can get into that later. They're now censoring anything that came from a Tornado Cash address. So it was USDC, right? Yeah, USDC and other things. So they're being censored and their accounts are getting frozen. And just to really paint a picture for you guys, we know that the Canadian truckers got their accounts frozen because they were getting donations regarding that, or even just being involved. If you're in a sanctioned country, your accounts are blocked and frozen by MetaMask, by Ethereum. They have the ability to do this, and they have the ability to surveil, and they have the ability to see every purchase that you've made. And let's say Secret buys some drugs or something dirty with some ETH, and then he buys, I don't know, some flowers from me with that same thing, or he sells it, he makes it with that. Then he buys some flowers from me. And I have this Ethereum that has been involved somewhere in the distant past or recent past, doesn't matter, with some kind of illegal activity. Guess what? My account is shut down and frozen. This is what we mean, the severity of surveillance technology, because even if you are completely innocent, in my case, I'm just selling flowers, but because it was dirty money, I'm guilty by association, because not every Ethereum, not every Bitcoin is created equally. That's what fungibility means, is they're equally created. You can't just say, oh, that's a good Bitcoin, that's a bad one. That's not fungible. Okay. So did I get that right, Secret? Do I have a good understanding of that so far?
You have like such a solid understanding of it, because like, you know, I love that I get to be the guy who buys drugs in this story. This is great, because, you know, someone like you selling flowers, what a great analogy. Someone like you who's selling flowers, who has nothing to do with the drug trade, nothing to do with anything illegal whatsoever, because of the surveillance chain and because of the connection of my wallet, which is apparently tainted because I buy drugs in the story, and your wallet, which is now tainted because I wanted to buy flowers from you. I was trying to do a good thing, folks. I was buying flowers for my mom. Because I was trying to buy flowers for my mom, Kalina is now punished for it. This could never happen on Dero. It would be literally impossible for someone to identify the source of which I received my funds from my wallet on Dero. And it would literally be impossible for anyone to determine the source of funds of which Kalina received on Dero. Because why, folks? It's encrypted. If you believe in encryption and the fact that it eliminates other users from being able, unauthorized users, from being able to see. If you've ever used a password on any account in your life, and you believe that that password, your account, is safe, you believe in encryption. I hate to say it. And if you are using crypto technology, if you're using a bank account, in my opinion, you have less privacy in using a bank account or the surveillance chains at all than you would with using DERO because of how it's designed. And so, yes, Kalina, to answer your question, you have a perfect understanding.
Excellent. Well, I have you and, Joy Raptor, Xylem, and all the people in DERO Discord to thank for that, because I came in just like with a hope and a hunch, and I was able to be aligned with what I feel like is the best path. And just a side note, a lot of people on, crypto Twitter or whatever, on YouTube influencers, they will shill you their shit coin shamelessly, never really knowing like what it is. They just know that they're going to get rich if you buy it from them. And DERO, we don't even want, like, if it was up to us and our sovereignty wasn't quantumly entangled with yours, I would just be like, don't tell these people, they don't deserve it. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude, but that's what I feel like. But then there's the higher self aspect of me that I know my sovereignty, my ability to transact privately and safely and securely outside of any jurisdictional power overseeing me and telling me what I can and can't spend money on is quantumly entangled with yours. So this is the purpose why I feel divinely inspired to share on DERO. And who knows, I'm just a beginner. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's this big psyop. I don't smell a single thing of that. And I mean, trust me, I find the psyop in everything. Not found it yet with anything in DERO. I've tried every kind of which way, and like I can't feel it yet. But if I ever do, you guys, I will tell you, but I'm not picking up any vibes yet. All right. So encryption. I was speaking with the Objective Alpha, and he has a beautiful way of describing encryption and privacy protocols versus encryption. It's my understanding, is this your understanding as well, that encryption, you cannot be written, you can have privacy protocols, but those are written in plain text. If you're truly to be encrypted, you have to use ciphertext along with, I barely understand it. Could you talk a little bit on homomorphic encryption and specifically the DERO homomorphic encryption protocol? DEHB, I can't remember what the acronym stands for.
Yeah, the DERO homomorphic blockchain protocol.
That's it.
So,
yes.
So homomorphic encryption, no homo, folks. So homomorphic, to get to that root, the prefix homo, it means the same. Everybody knows what homo means, but it means the same, okay? Homomorphic, it's morph. It has like a shape, right? Under this, it has the same structure. Okay, so that's homomorphic. What homomorphic encryption essentially is that once the item is encrypted, and in this case, it's the atomic unit of the DERO blockchain, specifically the transaction itself. The transaction at the transactional level of DERO, it is encrypted. I don't want to get people lost in this concept. That it's such a beautiful concept. It's really profound. But you can, whenever you have to, let's say you pull up your calculator. Okay, you pull up your calculator app, and if you need to conduct say for instance, a calculation on your calculator, you have to punch in the numbers, and you, the person, can visibly see 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, you're just doing a calculation, right? You're running a computation, right? And you can see that computation. More so, the application, the calculator application, can see the calculation. More so, the phone you're using the calculator app can see the calculation. More so, the network of which you're connected to can see the calculation. I hope that you can see where I'm going with this, folks. But when you want to run that calculation on your calculator app on your smartphone, iPhone, Android, computer, whatever, the entire network of which that device is connected to can see that you wrote 2 + 2 = 4, or actually 2 + 2 equals. And then it runs its computation and it knows it's 4, because you know 2 + 2 = 4. Now, what is homomorphic encryption? Okay, folks, this is really fascinating stuff. So follow me. When you're utilizing the homomorphic encryption, what that's essentially doing is it's saying that the data, the very fact that you're pressing 2 + 2, right? It's under a password lock. So not even the calculator knows what you're typing in. Your eyeballs could probably understand it, but the calculator app does not know that you're typing 2 + 2 = 4. And therefore, the Android device does not know that you're typing 2 + 2 = 4. And therefore, the entire the interwebs does not know that you're typing 2 + 2 = 4. And as a result, you're able to get the computational result. I know that sounded like a lot, and I was being very passionate. What my point is, and this is really key with DERO, is that the computations, the transactions that happen, they happen under a state of password protection, encryption, right? And that encryption, as a result of it happening, no one else knows what's going on. Now, typically, with other forms of encryption that are non-homomorphic encryption, you have to unlock the data that's underneath, read the data, process it computationally, and put it back under a state of encryption, right? You have to password protect it again. With DERO, we don't have to do that. Homomorphic encryption allows us to conduct computation under a state of encryption. And so the powers that be that are staring at my device can't see that encrypted transaction happen. They can't see that computation happen because it's under a state of encryption. And the computer, the DERO virtual machine that's run by thousands of nodes, I happen to have one among many, many other people. Those nodes are able to process your computations, your transactions, under a state of encryption, password protection, that none of them can read, but they're able to process. So why this is of value to you is that you can be cryptographically, mathematically guaranteed that your transaction happened, and it happened mathematically proved, cryptographically proved, that nobody else knows about it but you and the sender/receiver, and you know that because only you received the proof. I'm not trying to lose everybody here, but it's such a great moment to stop aside. Many of us had to go to school, and some of us, when we went to school, we were required by our teachers to prove our transactions. We had to write proof for the transaction, okay? So that we could prove that it really happened. On DERO, those proofs that were so hard to make when we were in elementary school, junior high, high school, wherever we went, those exist exclusively in our wallets. So it's a really beautiful thing, and I love talking about it, but maybe there's something more that we should touch on next.
Okay, well, I really think this is so crucial, and I am still beginning to wrap my brain around it. Those proofs. So, okay, our next question, our next topic is, I was listening to you talk in the DERO Entrepreneurs Discord, or no, a Telegram one day. And I was like mind blown because what you were speaking about, I had never heard of. And I mean, I've studied in crypto. I've never heard of this, but I've confirmed it on so many multiple types of like people and the stuff that you've showed me proving it. And I think that this would be a great segue to tie into this and then circle back to it, because the wallet thing, being able to do these proofs individually on your own, in your own wallet, it is next level. So you said that Ethereum, so ERC20s and any EVM compatible tokens. What those, because of the fact that they are non-native assets. Now, I want us to touch on what that means and what native assets means so that our listeners and watchers can really, really understand this, because this is crucial. If you don't know this, you are going to get screwed over, and we don't want that. So you spoke about how any dev, any person who wrote the smart contract can literally at any time just move your tokens, do whatever they want with them, because they don't live in your wallet. They live on a ledger. They are non-native. And yeah, so would you talk about this and then circle and go into more depth on how the homomorphic encryption proofs in the wallets of Dero? Go on. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for this too, because there's been no better time in history than right now, where Tornado Cash is such a fiasco, than right now to talk about this concept of Ethereum virtual machine, EVM compatible blockchains, EVM plus, copy pasta blockchains, and the surveillance chains that exist. Oh, I'm so excited for this. Okay. Part of what makes the situation so severe right now about Tornado Cash is this concept of where does the asset live? Okay, when for instance, let's use US dollar coin, which was first brought on the mainnet in Ethereum. Okay, so in order to generate an ERC20 token, which the US dollar coin is an ERC20 token, or even US dollar tether, or even DAI, or the Luna dollar, what was that, UST or US Terra or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, these tokens, which were invented and put onto different surveillance blockchains, they had a developer that made them. Okay, and this developer that made them, whether they know it or not, they have a lot of power in the contract that they made. Now, all USDC is a token that was manufactured by the contract that the Circle Foundation created. So the Circle Foundation created this Ethereum contract, this ERC20 contract, that when their bank accounts were of a certain quantity, they could also produce USDC in equal quantity. There's a guarantee somewhere in their manifest or whatever that there's a one-to-one relationship to any USDC. You could take any USDC and you could immediately get $1 for it. So one-to-one ratio, right? But what they didn't tell you was that they had control over every single USDC. It didn't matter that you deposited to them on a one-to-one basis US dollar, and they gave you USDC. In virtue of how Ethereum works, it is a contract that specifies an asset, and that contract, which the developer controls, that contract specifies in a smart way every single wallet address that owns that asset. And the developer of that contract, right? Think of that contract as like a Word document, because that's kind of what it looks like. It's a really smart Word document. And he can go to that Word document and say, I don't like that this wallet is moving my USDC around. He just locks it. He just says that this wallet can now no longer move that US dollar coin. And you can, guys, if you don't believe me, just go and look it up on the net. That's exactly what happened to their funds. They used a service which was by the US government found to be a risky, bad project. And as a result of that, anybody who has used that product, Tornado Cash, is now on the blacklist, the naughty list. And so USDC went to their contract and they went to these wallets on an individual basis and said, you can't move our product. And so now people who came into ownership of their US dollar coin in whatever means that they did, now can't move their US dollar coin because the creator of US dollar coin won't let them. This fact, this scenario is relevant on Ethereum, Harmony, Poly, Matic, Solana. It doesn't matter what chain. If it's not Dero, I'm serious, guys. If it ain't Dero and you are conducting a token to token, you're using their tokens, they can lock up your funds. So if any of you, and I've stressed this, if any of you are using Ethereum or any EVM copy pasta that's out there, get out. And I feel terrible saying this, but you need to get out, because they're going to lock up your funds at some point for something that you've done or something you didn't do. Like in the example that Kalina provided, you might just receive funds from someone and they and USDC says, or USDT says, you're no longer allowed to use this asset. And it can go even one step farther, right? So she was talking, Kalina was talking about Alchemy and Infura. These are RPC, they're nodes, okay, that MetaMask runs off of, and OpenSea also does run off of these. If MetaMask, which uses only one node, decides that they don't like you, they can lock up your ability to use MetaMask and prevent you from having access. And so none of this is possible in Dero. It's literally impossible to do this in Dero. But I feel like I really went into this ad nauseum. Should I cover something more specifically here?
Okay, so let me also throw in there, it doesn't even matter if you never even used Torn. Right. Somebody on Twitter posted all the transactions. Somebody went around dusting all these big corporate accounts like Puma, Target, all these huge accounts that have that hold USDC. And because it's a surveillance chain, transparency chain, it's very evident what those accounts are, who those accounts are. And they're just sending them like 0.01, I think it was, or 0.1 ETH that came from Tornado Cash Tumblr. And those accounts are getting frozen. So it's brilliant, right? But at the same time, think about this. If you upset somebody in the future, well, they could literally, on a transparency chain, if they want to really mess with your life, they could just send you some of that. Poof. You didn't even have to do anything. They would send it to you. You didn't want to receive it, but you couldn't block it. You couldn't say no. And so, yeah, that's my point, is that you don't even have to do the thing. Secret, are you still there? We lost your bust. Looks like we might have lost you, buddy. Okay, we had a little minor technical difficulties, but we're back. And Secret, go ahead and bring us in on how the wallets do the proof of work and all that cool stuff with the encryption.
Yes, so I really appreciate everybody's patience, because technology is crazy, and we're talking about tech. So I hope I haven't lost you yet. So where we left off was essentially, it doesn't matter if you have USDC in your wallet on Ethereum. It's not the case. You, in the USDC contract, it accounts to you that you have this much USDC. MetaMask, which is an extension, essentially, does an RPC call. It literally, it basically just asks the contract, do you have this wallet address on your contract? And if it says yes, then it says, what's the balance of it? And then it goes, this is how much balance is associated with it. So MetaMask doesn't even have your funds. They're just reading a contract and asking that contract, how much does it have? And then the contract tells MetaMask, and then you get to find out. So you don't own that. The contract does. It's much like in a bank account. Just because a bank account says you've got 100 grand in the bank owns it, bro, not you. The same thing with USDC. USDC owns that, not you. And they're going to use it against you. Let's go over to Dero for a second. Dero's so cool. I love Dero. The way that Dero works is it's a wallet-centric blockchain. It's designed that way so that, let's say that Secret goes and invents a token called Dero USD, right? Let's say that he invented it. This token that I invent from the DUSD contract, when I emit DUSD tokens from this contract and send them out to an exchange or send them out specifically to Kalina, because let's say that she took a bunch of her coinage and she sent it to DUSD and deposited it with them, which is what people do with US dollar coin. They just deposit with US dollar coin, and US dollar coin manufactures tokens and attributes them in the contract to this user. In Dero, if Kalina deposited with the DUSD, DUSD would emit a token and it would go to Kalina's wallet. The contract speaks nothing of who it went to. The contract has literally no control of the funds that it emitted. Those funds now exist with Kalina, specifically, permanently, forever. So if, let's say, for instance, the US government decided, guys, I'm telling you, I'm not just shilling it to you. This is how it's designed. If the US government came to the owner of DUSD and told them, shut it down, it wouldn't matter. Kalina still has the asset in her wallet. If they told us, give us the records of everybody that you've given this token to, I couldn't. It would be impossible. I would have to give them the proofs that I have and the transaction IDs. And oops, sorry guys, fell over the side of a boat. And Kalina, luckily, because she's smart, could just move the tokens from one wallet to the next, and they just disappeared forever. And no one would ever know, because they would have to find the keys to the wallet that originally received it. But that's like a certain level of specificity that's unnecessary. The point is that the manufacturer, the creator of the token of DUSD, can't stop the proliferation of the asset that they created. They can't stop the movement of it. It doesn't matter if it's found to be dirty or not. And this is why I want to speak to the camp of individuals who are like, CBDCs are evil and crypto technology is evil. Guys, yes, it's a necessary evil. The thing that's important, we can all say that money is the root of all evil. That's great. You still got to use it, okay? And the thing is, when it comes to this crypto technology, they're developing it, okay? They're building it. The governments, the jurisdictions that be, they're making it, okay? The thing is, when you're using privacy technology like Dero, for instance, they now can't see what you're doing with it. And I can almost guarantee that as a result of the necessity of privacy that jurisdictions have to provide its citizens, I can almost guarantee that they're going to be looking for privacy-centric technology for making their CBDCs, because at root, governments want to provide privacy to their users, but that's like a whole nother long range topic that will not likely happen in the near future. A lot of people disagree with me on this and say that CBDCs will be made on transparency chains. Good, let them do that. I have my own privacy chain and I don't care that you guys over there are using it. But anyway, that's my own private rant.
Oh, it's amazing point that you bring up. And do you know what I really like that you said there? And I want to also help, because I come from a background of not knowing anything about this kind of technology. I'm not a developer. I'm not savvy with code. All these things are so challenging for me personally to wrap my brain around. Luckily, I have a lot of really good mentors. I was drilling Asylum for information, like, please help me understand this exact concept. And he helped me understand that those tokens on all the EVM compatible chains, They are emulated, so they're not actually emitted. They're just kind of like simulated, like pretend. They live in the smart contract. If the developer is told to delete that smart contract, everything is deleted, all your funds. So I want to really make that clear. If your life savings is in USDC, which is an EVM compatible asset, a non-native token, and the developer is told by the jurisdiction, whatever powers that were, you have to delete this token. And because they're the developer, they can, and they have to comply because they have made themselves public, transparent, and surveillant, which puts them squarely in the jurisdiction of the de facto. When they hit the delete button, it erases everything, all your assets. In DERO, it emits it. So think of it like a gumball machine. When you put in and you get a token, or even DERO, the native asset, it literally spits out a gumball, and you take that gumball and you do whatever you want with it. If you crack the gumball machine, you're not going to not have your gumballs, right? But in the EVM compatible smart contracts, all your gumballs live in the gumball machine. There's just like a piece of paper that says, oh, all the pink gumballs are Kalina's and all the blue gumballs are yours. And if they destroy the gumball machine, the smart contract, you ain't got no gumballs. So that's like a very, very key point to this. And that's the difference between emulation and emission. So I think that that's just a phenomenal explanation, Secret. Thank you so much for going into that. Let's move on to our next excellent question that I can't wait for you to speak on. This type of fraud, when you were speaking about this on the call, you were sharing that they could use a call function, I believe it was, which basically just said, hey, we don't want you to have that token anymore. We're going to take them back. And those of you who knew about the Solana voting thing, they literally, in their decentralized platform, voted to take the funds away from some whale to take his crypto, which is like, I mean, to me, I don't care what that dude did. That's his money, right? So, but they had voted, and they didn't do it, I don't think, but the point still stands. You're not going to have a vote if you don't have the ability to do such a thing. So Secret actually showed me in the, I can't remember what you called it, but he showed me the functions that you can type in to take back somebody's tokens if you don't like that person, right? Can you go into that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So let's talk about what a smart contract is real quick. Because for a lot of people, this gets really lost. And I love talking about smart contracts and what smart contracts can and can't do. So traditionally, when you have a contract, you need some kind of third-party fiduciary to execute your contract. A smart contract is a contract which we have designed to execute itself. Fortunately for us, we have computers that can read language and conduct what it is that the language says, a self-executing contract. That's really all a smart contract is. It's a self-executing contract. It still needs some entity, some power to execute it. And traditionally, we use a fiduciary like an attorney or an escrow or whatever, a trustee or whatever, somebody who executes the contract, and we have to trust that that person will be a good person and will do it. What a smart contract or a self-executing contract would necessarily need is it would need a computer to transact it. Okay, and so what essentially a smart contract does is it's just it's a contract. It executes itself. And so when we talk about what the Ethereum virtual machine is, or the DERO virtual machine, it's a proliferation of computers that are all running the same code, so that when we talk to that unified computer, decentralized as it may be, it will generate a result. It doesn't matter which computer. It doesn't matter which computer it is. The entirety of the virtual machine will produce the result. So with the Ethereum virtual machine, they utilized a contract language known as Solidity. It's a JavaScript rewrite. That's all it is. It's an object-oriented language that has been rewritten to be utilized in a virtual machine that is shared by thousands and thousands of nodes around the world. Okay, so now you know what a smart contract essentially is. It's a self-executing agreement, and it runs inside of a computer. Not my computer, not your computer, but thousands of computers, which is a virtual machine. And so what is the Ethereum virtual machine as it pertains to smart contracts? So as a developer, I go and make a smart contract called USDC. And this smart contract, which was written in Solidity, that I installed into the Ethereum virtual machine, it has a series of functions, okay? That's all a smart contract is. It's a series of functions, okay? And in order for these smart contracts to work, these smart functions to work, we have to call upon these functions. We have to ask these functions. Like, for instance, on your calculator, when you hit the plus button, that's a function. It's the addition function. When you hit the equals function, right, it totals it all up. As a developer, I can go to the USDC contract, and the developer, excuse me, I didn't create it, but I'm just speaking as if I was. The creator of the USDC contract, I can tell that contract, move the funds from wallet A to wallet B. Now, I want you to think about this very seriously. We've already talked about this, about how the contract has emulated the assets inside of it to the wallets that have been accounted to ownership. To relate this to the real world in traditional finance, it would be like if the CEO of Wells Fargo went to your account and said, I don't like you, for whatever reason, and said, we're going to give all our money to Kalina. With any Ethereum virtual machine or copy pasta chain, surveillance chain, they can do that. They can take your funds and they can call a function at whim and move it. They can do it. On Dero, that's literally impossible. They designed it so you can't do that. Kalina's wallet has nothing to do with the smart contract that received DUSD. Secret's wallet has nothing to do with the smart contract that received DUSD. And so the creator of DUSD, the contract, could go in and you can read the functions, but you can't do this. You cannot say to the contract, move the funds from Kalina's wallet to Secret's wallet. It is programmatically designed so you cannot ever do that because it didn't emulate the asset. It doesn't exist in the contract. The developer doesn't have control over it. A great example of this is how the foundation, the Dero Foundation, put it. Even Captain has said this. The Dero inventor, the creator. It's a lot like cash. If the bank has emitted cash through an ATM or through a teller and has given it to Kalina, it doesn't matter that she received a text message or a phone call on her phone telling her to take the funds out of her purse and put it in Secret's wallet. She gets to go, ha ha ha, doesn't work that way. And that's the case of cash. Dero operates exactly the same way. Anytime there is a token that's emitted from a smart contract on Dero, it exists inside of the user's wallet under an encrypted state, wherewith the creator of that smart contract and its tokens has no power over the users who now hold those tokens. It's monumental. So I love it.
It's like the closest thing to physical cash. Like Captain and all of the core team, however they designed this, is so brilliant because it's literally it is actual cash just digitally. Like it's not just some list of who's got what. in the
Mhm.
gumball machine. It's
Mhm.
literally like the closest thing we could get to something tangible. And I mean, of course, you know, I always take it back to the epochs. I do feel that this change, like the physical liquid currency to an air one, is inevitable. But we're not here to talk about astrology. I would love to hear a little bit about Dero's services,
Mm.
and what are some of the potential currently functioning cases in Dero
Mm.
services, and some potential future use cases for this, because we hear a lot of stuff, you know, people trying from other, you know, camps or tribes of privacy coins that I don't know why the privacy, well, I do know why. I know why the privacy, there's only like 3 actual real privacy coins that are even considered relatively real, and that's Monero, Pirate Chain, and Dero. And they're all like always fighting each other, except for Dero really doesn't care. We're just like,
Well.
whatever. But like those guys really don't like Dero.
Mhm.
And they always have like a gazillion different types of ideas around why Dero isn't like legit. And one of them is, it's so funny. They're like, nobody's even seen it work before.
Well.
Meanwhile, we have like a thriving circular economy and ecosystem within the Dero community, where it's kind of like almost like a gifting society. Or I really like how you did your Pong cert. You monetize that, and I'd love to get into that in just a little bit. But could you talk about Dero services? Because I missed that talk. There was an epic talk, and it was on Dero services, and I was a day I couldn't be there, and I'm really bummed. So I also recognize that it's getting a little late, and I don't want it to go like super in depth. So maybe just do a very condensed version of Dero services, and then we'll have to have you back on to talk more extensively on this. So yeah, what are Dero services? What are some of the current projects that are up and running in Dero services, and what are some of the potential use cases?
Okay, so Dero Services is the most underrated, undervalued, undereducated, underused aspect of Dero. And I can't wait to give you the full rundown on it, Kalina. It's such a monumental part of Dero. And I'm happy to come back on and talk exclusively about Dero services. But in a quick synopsis for you, because of the way that Dero is designed, we can communicate with the Dero virtual machine. Again, remember what I was talking about? That it's a computer that's just repeated, and it's literally exists on everybody, all the nodes. Okay, you can create programs that talk to the computer about what's going on in the computer. This is what a service essentially does. If this result is going on towards this wallet or this node, you need to generate this result. Okay. So I don't want to get people super lost in it, because this is such a specific topic and a specific feature of Dero that doesn't exist anywhere else. It really does need its own time and its own space. And I would love to be able to give you a brief synopsis of it. But I had the opportunity to work with Captain, the creator of Dero, to implement a functioning service that runs on Dero. That's called the Pong server. All the Pong server does, its only job, is that when a specific amount of Dero goes into my wallet is supposed to, in virtue of this Pong server that's running off of my wallet, it's supposed to emit to the sender's wallet a message. It's the transaction reply feature, but we're not going to go into it super in depth. So essentially, I created what's called the secret Discord server. This was an example it's really a proof of concept, but the secret Discord server is super cool. We got some really rad folks in there. What they do, what people have done, is they send a specific wallet that I have that's connected to a Pong server. They send a specific amount of Dero to that wallet, and in their wallet, they receive a message. they receive an invite code to my exclusive secret Discord server where we study Dero like every day. That's what I do. I just sit and play with Dero, and I hang out in this secret Discord server. And so, yeah, I would love to go in more depth about all the different kinds of services that can be made using Dero. And in one small example, I've been able to demonstrate it. It's called the Pong server that me and the captain helped me put together. He made it. I just literally just raised the flag pretty much. And so, yeah, I cannot do that subject enough justice in this.
No worries. I really do think that it would be a great, not only just a topic in the Dero Entrepreneurs Discord, but also like a formal session just regarding that. Cause like I said, I missed
I could teach a class.
So it'd be great, right? That'd be great. Okay. So my last question before like our final type of like summary for you.
Mm-hmm.
In your perspective, in your imagination, what would a world look like if we saw mass adoption of Dero? Like if some solar flare struck the earth at just approximately this angle and it raised everybody's kundalini, we all had massive awakenings, and we saw, oh wait, we can transact outside of government, we're all going to go get Dero wallets and just leave them behind. What would a world that you can foresee look like?
Wow, that is such a cool question, because I tried to contemplate this beforehand. I really tried to, but it didn't really come together very well until this very moment. A world that uses exclusively Dero for its transaction ability, for its transactions, is actually a safer world. Interestingly enough, it's actually a more organized and more respectable world, partly in virtue of the fact of how people already conduct business and how they already do transactions. I like to use Mexico as an example because I'm currently in Mexico, and I've had some experiences in the past week that are extremely relevant to my life right now. So recently, the first day I landed in Mexico, in Acapulco, actually, a man walked up to me, and I was walking through the neighborhood with my brother, and the man walked up to me who had left a laundromat. And after an exchange and some dinner with this gentleman, he proposed a 50-50 partnership in his laundromat. The only thing that I needed to do was I needed to purchase a set of washers and a dryer. And it's assumed that I would just buy this and I would install it into his laundromat, and just voila, there you go, done deal. But I'd be doing this all in cash. So even though the powers that be, or the powers, as Kalina says, the powers that were, those entities, if I was using cash for these transactions, they wouldn't know that I conducted these transactions. But unfortunately for me, as much as this deal made sense, I actually was at risk because I could not create any kind of agreement with this person. I couldn't generate an agreement between us in virtue of the nature of cash. And this is part of why contracts were invented to begin with, is it doesn't matter if you have something that's effective, an effective medium of exchange between parties. This is partly why Monero is ultimately going to fail. Sorry, Monero. It's ultimately going to fail is because you cannot programmatically distribute the currency at base layer. As long as you have to rely on a third-party entity to transact Monero on your behalf, you are still reliant on that third party, which is not Monero, which you do trust, for a third party, which you hardly trust, to do the transaction for you. And let's get down to cash. If I did this transaction with this individual and used cash with him, and this plays into my vision of how the world works if we were all using Dero, if I did this transaction with him with cash and just I gave him the cash, or I went and bought the machines in cash, there's no written record of it. There's no history of it. I could buy that, install that, and he could look at me the next day and tell me, I don't know what you're talking about. He could do that with cash. So even if it was private, I still get screwed. Or I could go use something like Monero or R, Pirate Chain. I still would have to rely on a third-party entity to conduct my transaction, which means I'm trusting a jurisdiction that I don't control or own in. But with Dero, I can write a smart contract with this individual. I can install the smart contract into the platform, and we can have our agreement. And I don't need to rely on a third party. I'm at base layer with this individual, and it will transact, and we will have a great deal. So I envision a world that uses Dero to be a safer and more fair. Unfortunately, this gentleman, Armando, he does not get washers and dryers from me. I don't feel safe trusting him with my funds. And as a result of that, I was not able to further development in this town, in this country, with money that I have available to invest, because I don't trust the deal. But if we both use Dero, I would trust it, because I know that I could programmatically design the deal, that it was in our best interest together. Because at root, all a jurisdiction is designed to do is to enforce the agreements between parties. But if we're using a agreeable contract to begin with that is programmatically executed by a platform we both agree on, and in the language we both agree on, we're in agreement. We have achieved consent between two parties, not three. And it's a beautiful thing. And so I do see a world where P2P interactions can be safer, more trustworthy, and ultimately private with the use of Dero. Does that work for a world vision for you?
Wow. Yes, an incredible vision. And thank you so much for sharing that story. It really paints a clear picture, because yeah, it would be amazing to get to do that, right? And be a part of something and know that it's not just a scam. And I do think that it's interesting when we talk about trust versus trustlessness, and how the whole world up until this point has really been running on trust law, which does. Hi, can you hear me? My internet might have cut out for just a little moment.
Yeah, it popped out, and we ended with trust law.
Yeah, so up until this time, the world has really been exclusively existing off trust law and third-party fiduciaries. And I think that has been where the corruption has come through, because those third parties always, if you look at the patterns of history, they always take from the bag. And this is the problem with governments. This is the problem with taxes, because they always will take what's not meant for them eventually. It's like, I remember, I can't remember who actually, it was maybe KL on the Crow 777 podcast was talking about the 5 stages of societies, and how basically the, bloodlines, if you can even say that anymore, how these elite so-called people would just wait, because they know societies are always destined to fall, because the people that we put in charge of those trusted positions will always steal and take from the bag that's not meant for them. And once they do, they know, because they've had their schooling and educational systems intact because of their family lines, that they know these cycles. And they know that if we get to that stage where those people are taking that money and paying themselves, it's only a matter of time before that civilization falls. So I think that Dero has a lot of solutions in regards to that. And I do think that when we have a framework that we're not reliant upon trust, that actually more trust can be made and created, because there's none of this weird, shady things. It's just a culture of integrity. And there's 2 routes to that. Some may think, some may think that transparency and surveillance is the ultimate route to integrity. I personally have always been of the belief, through my own experiences, the less structure and the more privacy one is given, after a certain amount of time of healing, we'll call it, which might look like chaos on the grand scale, integrity actually is the thing that comes to rise, because it is not natural for us to be surveilled. It's not natural for us to be, treated as children, because then we become children. We become lawless. Therefore, we have to be in the jurisdiction of a father figure. And so I love the potentialities for what DERO can bring to this world. And I am actively manifesting the highest outcome possible, armed with this information. And that's why I've been so thrilled to learn about DERO. I'm so grateful to all of you, like yourself, and others who since day one have like taken me under their wing, even though they probably thought I was some scamming bot or, dude in, I don't know, Bangladesh or whatever, Nigerian prince or whatever, scamming people. I'm so grateful that you guys have like taken me under your wing and taught me, and that like your patience to teach me as I ask a gazillion questions from a total noob, little crystal healer chick perspective. So I'm really grateful. Secret, what is next for you in DERO? I know you've got the Wiki project. What's like the next thing that you're passionate about? What's the next step for you?
Wow, that's a good one. I want to just quickly speak really quick to something you just said, that it's not natural for us to be surveilled. There's a really great documentary about this very concept. It's called Living in Public. There was a guy who invented YouTube before YouTube was a thing, and he created this miniature environment where 100% of the participants were being surveilled, and it turned into a total. I just don't want to give it away. It's called Living in Public. It's great, great to think about what happens when you have no privacy. It's really fascinating. I highly recommend it. But what's next for me? So I am not a part of the DERO Foundation. I am not the developer of DERO. That's Captain. The foundation is Joshi, Cryptoid, and Dank. I am a contributor of the wiki, which is like a new thing for me. I've been really hammering on the guys there that we need to like really decentralize the knowledge portion of DERO, and helping the community contribute their knowledge to a centralized position. And I shouldn't say a centralized position. I really mean a repository, like one place where you can go and get all the information. And because if you guys don't know, DERO's been around since 2018, and they've had to implement a lot of solutions over the years to try and get people up to speed. I'm just trying to help them get it all into one place, which will be a Wikipedia. I'm not in a rush to make this Wikipedia. I don't think anybody is, because DERO's going to be around for like, estimates are like 300 years. How long DERO's going to last as a product. That's partly because of quantum resistance and stuff like that, but that's like totally outside of the subject. Some of the other things I'm really interested in that I think are in the future, DERO Entrepreneurs has become really clear lately that it's a incubator and fundraising site. People can bring their projects there and make their fundraising requests, so that investors can look at their projects. So that's really exciting. That's a new development, is helping projects obtain the funding they need to get going on DERO. I'm also working with a couple of developers in the community, some pretty big ones, with their projects. And I'm not necessarily like invested, like an investor, like holding equity in their projects, but they definitely keep me pretty close to the testing and the product creation. Really excited for those. I'm absolutely stoked for two things. I'm really stoked for privateislands.fund, which is run by my bro Apollo. That supporter slash fundraiser, so like it's like a GoFundMe slash Patreon, and now it's recently just come out with bounties, so it's like a Gitcoin too, which is super cool. So we can do private fundraisers, unstoppable fundraisers. Okay, that's a big deal. We can do private, unstoppable support websites or support pages. so people can subscribe to different tiered platforms for you. And then we also have bounties, and so people can load contracts with a designated amount of the currency, DERO, of which is paid out when people accomplish certain results. So I'm really excited for Private Islands Fund. Really excited for that project. I think I'm a part of the board on that one. I don't receive any money from it, but I'm an advisor on the board. And then I'm really excited for my friend Six. He has a casino that he's been building. He just he's this 5-card poker is really great. He's coming out with Texas Hold'em. Very excited for that. That's really excited. So I also think that in the near future, I'm going to release my own NFT line. I've collected along my journey some really cool imagery that's really exclusive to the DERO world that I think people would think is kind of neat, kind of cool. So NFTs are coming on for DERO lately, so I thought I might start my own NFT line. And ultimately, I just really want to learn. I really want to share. And if you guys, anybody who's listening, are learning about cool stuff, I hope you'd include me in the learning process. I love to learn. I'm a dedicated learner, and I would be happy to share what you're creating with other people because that's what I get excited for. So thank you, Kalina, for including me in your show. I really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for having me here, and the patience that you have is astounding. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been truly incredible. I'm so grateful. And next on the show, we're having Asylum, which is amazing because Asylum he's turned down like 100% of interview invites, and he gets them, I'm sure, all the time because he's super knowledgeable. And he's going to talk on Artificer, the new most advanced, most in-depth, epic NFT minting protocol or standard. I'm sorry, standard that there is in existence. I'm actually gonna release an NFT as well. I've got a couple of them in the works and working on Dark Flower. I already have it ready. I just don't know which standard to choose because it's an audio track. But yeah, they're going to be like guided, hypnotic, like meditations or / self-hypnosis based off of the world's most poisonous flowers or just regular flowers or really any kind of flower. And it's called Dark Flower. And basically, like, you can program yourself in your subconscious to heal, find solutions, all kinds of things, relax, rejuvenate, refresh, anti-age, I mean, all kinds of things. So I'm super stoked for that. Plus art, plus, oh my gosh, I've got so many ideas in the works for NFTs, Oracle decks, tarot decks. But yeah, we're going to have to study on that together because I was trying to write the smart contract with Asylum and I'm almost done. I just need to discover how to, there's a few things, but I'll ask you on the DERO Entrepreneurs weekly or daily chat. And I think that that's really important for us to share right now. How can people get a hold of you? Obviously, the Telegram link that we're going to put below. I recommend you guys, if you want to learn about DERO, we're in a recession right now. Now, I have programmed myself to always align myself with the maximum amount of wealth because as somebody who is conscious in this world, we need to start taking responsibility for our wealth because we're going to be the ones building the new sovereign earth. Literally, like if that's in your heart, like you got to get used to attracting abundance. And so here's a mantra I'd like to offer you guys right now. Every recession is amazing because I make so much money. I'm aligned with all the things in order to set me up for success so that I may be a fiduciary for the new sovereign earth in the future. And here is one opportunity that you can right now. Recessions, I believe, are for building. If you want to do trading and all that silly things that people do, the Bitcoin bros and whatever, that's fine. But recessions, in my opinion, are always for building. Why? Because it's the best way you can invest yourself, especially when you're aligned with a project like DERO. So join the Dero Entrepreneurs Telegram, join the Dero Discord, join the Dero, the DApps Discord, and join Secret's Pong server, the secret server, and just start learning and getting involved. Why? Because it's really exciting and fun and thrilling. And even if you think you can't, look at me. If I can do it, y'all, you can do it. So that's the best place I think you can learn about Dero. We're going to be doing a bunch of different calls and hosting different types of calls on that group. And you can connect with Secret. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they have questions for you?
Wow, I really appreciate that. That's huge. I haunt the Dero entrepreneurs like every day, and you can catch me over there in Telegram. You can catch me over in the Discord, the official Discord. I haunt over there as well. You can catch me in the Discord DApps. It's a community-run server. That's really rad as well. If you really want to hit me up privately or personally, you can actually private message me on Telegram, on Discord. Dero has its own forum. If you're interested in a little bit more formal setting, you can message me there. If you want to email me, it's SecretNameBasis at keemail.me. So some people like to email. I don't know who does that anymore. Only spammers. But yeah, I'm here for you guys. That's what my role is in life. My purpose is to learn and to share. And so I'm excited to learn more about what you've got going on so that I can share what you got to share. So yeah,
it's really exciting. You're excellent at that, Secret, and I'm loving that we're getting to, you know, be in this like class, I guess, like the class of whatever this month is of Dero people learning, like new onboarding Dero enthusiasts all studying together. And I have to say, this is super, super, super important, you guys. Never accept a DM from any admin. Never accept a DM from anybody in Telegram or on Discord that looks like a moderator. Not even from myself. Definitely not from this guy, because we'll never DM you.
Yeah, I'll never.
You'll have to DM us.
No
for
offense.
that.
I won't DM you.
We won't, because there are scammers. And literally, I have to say this right now, and I'll have to say it in every video, because when you join these groups, there are just so many people out there, like, just thirsty to scam you for Dero specifically. And a friend of mine in our community got scammed for $2,000 worth of Dero.
Ouch.
And, you know, I take responsibility because I did not stress this enough to him. Never accept a DM. He accepted a DM from some scammer that was trying to pretend that they were Asylum when they were just somebody with their name as that, but their actual handle wasn't the right, it didn't match. Just don't accept DMs, and never, ever put your seeds in anything other than ENGRAM or the CLI wallet. Nobody is going to ask you for your seeds, and that is legit. Nobody will ask you for your seeds. You keep those protected. Never sync your wallet with something where you have to put in your seeds. That's a scam. They will take your Dero. So I just really needed to emphasize that, because I haven't done that before. Other than that, the Dero community is very nice. None of us scam you, but don't accept DMs from us. All right. Well, enjoy. I'm going to put all those links that Secret talked about in the description below. Thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to our next show regarding Dero services. And have the most beautiful rest of your vacation in Mexico / wherever else you're going.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it, Kalina. This has been a lot of fun, and I look forward to maybe many more shows, and that would be really exciting. And I look forward to meeting any of you. I can't wait to talk more about you.
All righty, you guys. And that's all. Oh.